Hey guys, Peter Cap here, and welcome to another episode of Peter's No Cap History, the show where I combine my loves of fantasy and history to give potential points of inspiration for aspiring fantasy artists, writers, and world builders. Now, I'm aware that a lot of episodes of the show have been related to military history, but that's pretty much due to happenstance, okay? While I love military history in particular, there's obviously a lot more to history than that. Today we're going to be talking about a form of art called mosaics. Let me give a little bit of backstory here regarding my personal experience with mosaics. When I was 16, my family and I went to Italy. We visited 4 cities: Florence, Venice, Rome, and Sorrento. All the places we went, we tried to visit as many sites as we could. So much of the art, the sculptures, the paintings, so many things we saw really resonated with us. And Venice was no exception to this. The place where we found housing for those few days in Venice, we were only a few minutes away from St. Mark's Basilica. We went inside. It was beautiful as always. What we saw were paintings and stuff lining the walls everywhere. And then when we got a better look at it, we realized those weren't paintings. All these quote-unquote paintings were put together with pieces of glass and shards and ceramics. And again, these were very intricate images that were all around the walls. And it was all put together with these tiny pieces. And that blew our minds. That, my friends, was my exposure to what a mosaic is. Mosaics are so beautiful and intricate. The first mosaics can be traced back to Mesopotamia, but they became a major staple of classical art, especially with the Romans. Many of these mosaics were used for floors, for walls, for ceilings, and so many of these things are positively beautiful. They often depicted events from mythology, and later on they also depicted stuff from Christian sources. Pretty much any culture that interacted with the Romans or conquered stuff from the Romans integrated, mosaics into their art forms. For example, Islam took inspiration from mosaics as well, like when they conquered some of the former Byzantine territories. It was a thing in Greece, it was a thing in Rome. Even places like Eastern Europe took influence from mosaics due to the common ground of Orthodox Christianity. Another awesome thing about mosaics for historians is they do provide some visual points of reference for contemporary things at the time. For example, while I think the hair color is technically wrong here, this is a famous mosaic depicting Alexander the Great. And I believe it's the Battle of Gaugamela, which is a huge battle in Alexander the Great's campaigns. We have mosaics like these, which depict Justinian the Great from the Byzantines, as well as other comparatively contemporary figures. I must say, this one's kind of funny because this is a weird fanfiction type thing. Well, that's the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus, but the 2 people next to him are contemporary figures, which the jokes for that write themselves. Seriously, imagine a world leader doing that today. Another good example of contemporary images I'd say includes this one that depicts some gladiators. I also must say I like this one as well. There's something so simplistic about it. It's just a dog. Seriously, wouldn't this be like someone getting a painting of a cat or taking a picture of their dog? There's just something simplistic about this one that I find to be so endearing. Tragically, many mosaics are just gone. In fact, most of them are because they were destroyed just due to wars and conquests and stuff. Unfortunately, it's a tragic part of life. We have this one that depicts stuff from the Odyssey. There's this one that depicts Saint Peter. This is a beautiful one from Florence. Here's a Jewish one that depicts the zodiac wheel. And lastly, here's some Islamic ones. We got this pattern here. The Dome of the Rock has mosaics on the inside of it. And just like of any other culture, they use them. The amount of intricacies and beauty we see with these things is nothing short of peerless. Mosaics are actually still a thing today, which makes sense, you know what I mean? Just like paintings, frescoes, and any other art form, of course, these things never die. Again, this is an extremely broad summary of what a mosaic is. Now, in terms of using it in fantasy works, well, I really need to articulate that one. Mosaics seem to be used for depicting events of cultural significance. The idea of this is an important part of our history, important part of our culture. We want to memorialize that in a way that is both beautiful and intricate. Now, as for my own fantasy setting, God Shards, while I don't mention anything in God Shards The Uniter, I do have some mosaics prominently featured in God Shards Six Strangers. When our heroes visit Ventosa, which is known as the City of Artisans, there's one part where our heroes enter this temple that is covered in mosaics. And again, just like the source material, they are depicting famous events from my setting's world and lore. And in case you're wondering, yes, this temple mosaic was inspired by what I saw in St. Mark's Basilica. I bring a lot of my love of history to these things, and I feel like if you did a similar thing for your setting, You won't regret it. So that's it for this episode. I hope you guys like this. And again, I'm going to try and branch out to stuff that's not as much about the military history side of things. Because this is called Peter's No Cap History, not Peter's No Cap Military History. But that is basically the gist. I will see you guys next time.